takes their eyes off the road while speeding along in a 3-ton hunk of steel. Freaky, right? Well, why not just ask them to stop? Or better yet, volunteer to text for them. It might be a little awkward, but believe me, you'll live.
Learn more at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
It's important to know what's going on, especially around the world.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on this and just about every day. Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ground to cover here, or we have already, I should say, this week, because today, ever so slightly different, in that Free-for-All Friday is what we call it, and what we do is focus on your comments, calls, everything about here in the borderland, what affects us here and beyond, because there's always way more than we can even get to 2 hours out of each day. And we've gone pretty far afield recently, as we have Ida Beza Gardner joining us and chiming in over there on the Facebook page. Good afternoon to you as well. Hi there, Ida. But if you want to chime in and bring up some of the other points here, because we also kind of keep, as much as it has been kind of like a herding cats lately, on the focus of what affects us here in the borderland. Beyond that, there is so much more ground to tread. So we do open up both the phone lines, already open here. If you want to chime in, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Plus, we'll take on just about any subject, any call, all those things. So just keep it clean if you're calling in. I don't have to dump you off the line here, but I will, because keeping it on and going on air is our primary focus here. So enthusiasm is appreciated, even encouraged when it comes to these subjects here and the many ones and what you want to discuss as we got going on here. Just just remember that the FCC is definitely still there for it, which is why we do take the comments as well. And for me to pop them up on screen or read them there, again, some of those things. We also have Flaco Jimenez. Howdy to you as well there. Cowboy emoji happening there. Also dropping those likes and reacts already. Ion Graham, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, Ida Beza Gardner, and Flaco Jimenez. Do appreciate that. And, I mean, don't worry. Anytime that we do these Fridays, it's not I'm expecting y'all to bring up all the subjects here. We got plenty to talk about, even here on a Friday. That is, we'll be dragging over a little bit to Monday already. I actually had been not anticipating the deadline here already. I lost my eye on the ball on this one. I know, shame on me. But that we've actually got some of those deadlines coming up for the filing for city council to be on the November election. El Paso Matters with a pretty good roundup of what the current situations are and what will very likely be happening. A lot of stuff and potential candidates at some pretty crowded fields in a lot of different ways. So because the city of El Paso, of course, we have in November going to be having those general elections and those city council seats. And we got some pretty crowded fields. I mean, 4 districts up for grabs: District 1, 5, 6, and 8. And only one incumbent filed so far. One incumbent, Peter Swarzbean, is not available to continue to rerun, unfortunately, or depending on how you decide it. John Browson saying throw all the bums out here, so I'm not going to say you're saying unfortunately there, but he is termed out and will not be able to run again. And that race with 5 different candidates already, representative for District 5, 3 candidates so far, District 6, 4 candidates, and District 8, 4 candidates. It's going to be a busy season when we start breaking down all of these elections here. Even without the ballots and the different petitions going on around already. But as El Paso notes out, breaking down who has and who hasn't filed for re-election, noting specifically that only Isabel Salcido is an incumbent who has actually filed for it, having kicked off her campaign this past Wednesday, and will be filing the paperwork by Friday afternoon. But the deadline to do so is going to be Monday at 5 p.m. So we are looking at, again, potentially crowded and maybe contentious election season. Just as a reminder here, we have had in recent-ish times, heck, before the last election, some unintentionally, apparently, resigned from office by announcing they were running for a different office, even though they didn't mean to run for the different office, and ended up still trying to run for the office they were currently in. If that's too confusing, buckle up, because I feel like that season's probably going to have more of these kind of features around in it. So some of those deadlines. So looking forward to that Monday, seeing really how these races will be coming together and who really we can start looking at and analyzing when it comes to who's going to represent us in those, again, 4 city council districts. Not all of them kind of that way of the, I hesitate to make comparisons to the Senate, but it's closer than not, at least when it comes to the staggering of the different spots here. So no, it's not all gone at once, as much as John Browsland talking about that. Also, John Browsland saying, where in the hell is all this rain? Supposed to receive 90 inches by Monday morning. I'm hoping that that's an exaggeration. I mean, we do, of course, have our updated forecast coming from our news partners over there at KFOX 14. I don't think it's a 2-digit return. If not, y'all better make sure you got those sandbags headed already. And I know that there's a lot of preparation going on in and around town, including with El Paso Water and TxDOT preparing for this weekend. Want to say I even saw out today a removal of debris from streets and already some pumping going on. So yeah, good time to batten down the hatches. And we've got from our news partners over there at KFOX 14, weather warned Friday through Sunday. And that storms could contain heavy rainfall. So if you want to keep it, maybe either nail it down or bring it inside. Probably both. I would honestly recommend here. Finding leaks in places I wasn't expecting them has been a fun part of my last few days. How y'all doing out there? But at least one other thing I wanted to mention here going on affecting our region, as much as we've been talking about some of the violence that's been going on, particularly in northern areas not too far from the border in Mexico. Of course, what happened in Juarez recently, a stark example, but also happening in many other sectors along the entire border region, pointing out that now the State Department, I guess maybe, I'm not going to say waking up to what's going on there, but taking a little bit more direct action, sort of, with a warning that they have now issued, with a warning of travel to Mexico, saying that Americans are being warned about the increased risk of crime and kidnapping in Mexico specifically. And the Department of State reissued a travel advisory recommending that American citizens refrain from traveling in several cities and several central and southern states in the country. The travel advisory stated violent crimes such as homicide, kidnapping, carjacking, and robbery is widespread and common in Mexico. Yeah. And RJ commenting that a lesson in beware what you say, you may be running for an office you already occupied. Yeah, the fact that it was a technicality, and that by technically announcing you're running for a new place in some Texas statutes requires and essentially mandates that you have thereby already not abdicated office, but you have resigned from that office effectively. And in the modern world, that being that maybe there was an errant Facebook post made with it. If you're going to tell me that the world isn't getting stranger, I don't know what to tell you to change your mind if you're not going to look at that and take that already here. As I've, of course, mentioned, Free For All Friday is what we are doing. So if you're wanting to get on the line, of course, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We're doing that throughout both hours of the program here. So if you're wanting to get on the line, you can, of course, dial that in here as, some more outlooks for stocks here. But one of the things that I kind of teased yesterday and really wanted to make sure we got into was more of the film production coming to our area. A lot of celebration happening in state of New Mexico, or I guess a lot of some relative celebration would be a better way to put it, and particularly coming out of New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham's office, announcing that a film production company to headquarter in Las Cruces, specifically 828 Studios, will be using a $3 million state's LIDA investment to start there in the Las Cruces area, expected to bring somewhere on the order of hundreds, if not 100 or more jobs to the area, and then plans to invest $75 million to build a 300,000 square foot studio and 20-acre backlot and at least 100 high-paying jobs in Las Cruces. So, yeah, there's a lot of good, bad, and in between going on in and around our region, but Let's go back to those phone lines now. Again, if you wanted to call in, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We do have Jerry on the northwest side of town here with us right now. Jerry, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you, Andrew, for taking my call.
Mhm.
And I want to say I hope the First Lady, Jill Biden, gets well. I missed this past week, stating that. I wish her the best, and she gets well. My
Absolutely.
calling is for the press, what's going on with our press, even our local press. KFOX 14 had a news article about Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, and him firing an attorney that worked for the state. But they didn't tell the full story. When that first happened 2 or 3 weeks ago, Ron DeSantis came on and national news, and he told everybody the exact statute in Florida that covers his authorization to fire that individual. But that was not reported on KFOX 14 day before yesterday. They made it seem like Ron DeSantis was just being a bully, which he's not.
Okay.
So even our local press, the ones that we're relying on for truthfulness, is not telling the full story. So that's one of the things I wanted to bring up. And anytime you only tell half the truth, it's still a lie. Okay.
Well, I prefer our format, among other things, to be able to delve into further things, because I'm sure I'm not finding that story immediately here, looking over on their site and such here, but I can tell you from experience that probably what it was about is that there's continued controversy about this, and given the short time that a lot of particularly TV news things have about, that's they're not really able to get into depth on those things, which is, again, one major reason why I prefer the way we do it here. Absolutely.
Okay, and the reason why is because sometimes people are out of town or something and they don't hear the first part of the story that happened 2-3 weeks ago.
Yep.
But yet when they come on and they do an update or whatever, and they don't say, well, he had the authority to do this under the Florida state constitution, then they're making Ron DeSantis seem like he's the meanie, the bad guy, the bully, which is wrong.
Yeah, no, I get your perspective there, being, frustrated with that. And I'll say, maybe not specifically on this story, but just the way it is dealt with in general, I have often had a similar frustration. And again, very, very specifically, the way that we deal with it on this program, the way we can have discussions and delve into subjects here is, I think, something not necessarily missing, but needed in any case to be able to get into context on things, because, different perspectives and different ways you look at things can alter the way things are then talked about even. So, yeah, that's why, I can get your frustration here, but I'm not saying we're the solution to that either, but we try to be as much as we can.
Okay, you're cutting out on me, Andrew. I'm going to have to let you go.
No, okay. All right. Well, thank you for the point in the car.
Yeah,
do appreciate it. All right, you have a good one there. Have a great weekend. All right, again, we are taking those calls online, and a lot of different comments coming in and commentary on our local news sources. We make certain arrangements and certain relationships the best that we can in order to bring in all the best that we can bring about in the region, story-wise and other discussion-wise. And of course, keep doing that and getting back with more calls on the line here, and a lot of commentary about the rain we got coming on here. Yes, we're not trying to become a weather station by any means, but yeah, they're looming out there as they have been all week. So tell you what, do for that first break of the hour here right now. You all, of course, tuned in to Talk El Paso, airing live here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. That number to call if you want to get on the line, add your 2 cents, is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
No major new crashes on your El Paso freeways right now. I-10 is slow westbound from the Loop to the 54 Patriot with 5-minute delays. Gateway Boulevard northbound after Sun Valley Drive, that accident has cleared. Police are responding to an accident at East San Antonio at St. Vrain and an injury accident. Wrestler at Red, take Westwind or Belvedere instead. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast. We'll bring you the story of the Baltimore Colts, the football team that helped revitalize Baltimore and kickstart the NFL, but also broke the city's heart. Be sure to listen to this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Once again, we were El Paso's #1 dealer in new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram sales in July. Thank you, El Paso and surrounding areas.
How did you do that again?
We have the best inventory and the best prices in town with exceptional trade-in values.
You heard the boss. Get big savings on every new and certified pre-owned vehicle in our huge inventory. Save thousands in interest with 0% APR for 72 months on new 2022 Dodge Chargers and Challengers. Plus, huge savings and super low 2.9% APR for 72 months on 2022 Ram trucks. All military personnel and all first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Trade and upgrade for less during the Make This a Summer event at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun at I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 0 APR is $13.89 and 2.9% APR is $15.15 per thousand finance on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
As a marketer, you want to reach everyone, adults, teens, millennials, but it's not like these groups all hang out in the same place, right? Actually wrong. They're all right here, listening to radio commercials just like this one. Radio ads connect with 93% of Americans every week. That's more than Google, more than Facebook, more than TV. In fact, radio reaches 20% more millennials than TV. Want more of the people you want to talk to all in one place? Visit iHeartAdvertising.com and get AM/FM working for you. That's iHeartAdvertising.com.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, beat the largest timeshare company in federal court and has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-738-9900. That's 800-738-9900.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. A lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
That's just one adoption story that started at a shelter. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. A lot of comments coming in over on the Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, such as RJ, Flaco Jimenez, EFR, Ion Grimm, John Braselton, Monica Cervantes, missing at least someone, Ida Beza Gardner there right off the top as well. And dropping those likes and reacts, we do appreciate Robert Haynes, Ion Grimm, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, Ida Beza Gardner, and Flaco Jimenez. Again, if you want to comment over there, as Flaco Jimenez says, it's supposed to start raining around 10 and then all night. Sounds about right. And Ion Grimm saying a little bit earlier, good thing I'm building a boat. Anyone have animals they want to house? Just make sure you have 2 of each. Yeah, I'm not saying it's going to get that bad. No, it's not supposed to be 90 inches, but I do believe we're expecting a couple of inches, which around here would be a considerable portion of our usual yearly allotment of rain as it is. So yeah, probably going to be pretty hefty for our area. So batten down the hatches, literally and figuratively, is definitely a good idea there. And some other commentary coming in saying, EFR saying, listen to the show because it's the only place in El Paso where you can be informed, especially locally, since El Paso news don't or won't cover. Thank you. I mean, I appreciate it. We try to do in-depth things here. I understand some frustrations people have here, but I often think a lot of it is a more kind of an issue of the format more than anything. I'll be perfectly honest with you. Sometimes when I was still in TV news, I would be at the end of the day having worked a full 8, even 10 hours sometimes towards the idea of putting one story on air and then a whole day boiling down into usually minute and a half, 2 minutes of airtime. And that was it. I was sometimes struck by almost the sheer absurdity of that situation and left cackling somewhat maniacally and or desperately because, yeah, it's just kind of a little bit ridiculous that an entire day, a entire bit of reporting going into that short. So there are issues with the format, and that's part of the reason we do what we have here. So we also have Mondo Mankanda over on the Twitch stream saying favorite days are Wednesdays with the Stephania Seifert and Free for All Fridays. I mean, I like both of those too as well, definitely. So let's get back to that phone line for that purpose here. A lot of calls coming in here. Again, that number to do so, 915-544-5876. 544-KTSM. We do have Raul in the Northeast on the line here with us right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew, I'm a local guy. Beto O'Rourke has asked the appeals court to toss Greg Abbott's mega donor Kelsey Warren's libel lawsuit. And O'Rourke has supposedly, repeatedly said, supposedly with no basis in fact whatsoever, that Warren broke the law and committed felonies, extortion, bribery, corruption, when he purportedly bought off Governor Abbott to fix the power grid in Texas so that the Energy Transfer supposedly could make money in the event that the grid failed. And O'Rourke's appeal is arguing that he exercised his free speech rights by rallying against the influence wielded by energy executives. Beto was saying that he also criticized a feast charge by the natural gas suppliers during the freeze. And he also criticized Abbott's approval of a loophole excusing some gas suppliers from winterizing the storm. Now, they're arguing that it's a frivolous abuse of the judicial system to silence political debate. And in addition, the courts have long held that political debate, particularly statements comparing campaign contributions to bribery, extortion, are not defamatory, according to his appeal. It says the colloquial use of sharp words to describe the danger of 1 million in political contributions is not defamatory. And that O'Rourke's colloquial use of sharp words to describe the gas industry billionaire making a $1 million contribution days after the governor signed legislation containing a loophole favoring the gas industry is protected by political speech and is not defamatory. According to the campaign records, Warren has donated almost $2.8 million to Abbott in the past 10 years. Now, we live under the golden rule. He who has a goal makes the rules. Duh. What else is new? We have the best politicians plutocrats can buy. That's what's broken with America's political system. Money is the mother's milk of politics. Let me give you a quote. I give to everybody. And when they call, I give. And you know what? When you give, they do whatever the hell you want them to do. And that's a broken system. Now, Donald Trump said that back in August of 2015. So, there's nothing new here. It's very interesting, and there's no doubt that Texas, as politicians on the Republican side, are owned by the energy industry, by the Chamber of Commerce people, by the economic interests that control this state's economy and politicians.
I mean, at a certain point, I think the argument would come down to, are they beholden to them or are they responding to constituent interests? Now, when constituent interests tend to come with hefty campaign donations, yeah, I think the point gets a little bit muddled and muddied there. To your initial point about that whole lawsuit situation, yeah, I remember that coming back from, that was like April or May, I want to say here, March, actually, a little bit before that even, about that. And given as much as campaign donations are a matter of public record, and I mean, if we were getting lawsuit happy over talking about donations, we'd be in a heap of trouble ourselves here when it just comes to commenting on them. Sure, I get the idea that this one was based more on the specifics of what he said rather than just a simple commentary. Honestly, I mean, as much as you may be in favor of the resolution of this or whatever the heck it is, the situation is that a lot of this, because of these kind of concerns, has been moved out of the sphere of public record. That has just been the nature of what these super PACs, dark money, etc. has been, essentially all in the aftermath of the Citizens United decision, Supreme Court decision in the last decade or so. And I have a lot of issues. That's one of those magic wand items that I would hit if I had the ability to wave one and change some significant things with our society and governance more specifically, because that one I don't think has necessarily done us a lot of good when it comes to, sure, as much as money can represent speech, there are generally limits on what can be donated. So making it, at least in theory, that those that have the most money aren't literally dictating what's in government, but then in practice, as is any time, those individuals that have more resources tend to be a little bit more invested in making sure that their money can go further, at least be kept from. Take the same kind of issues whenever you look at tax law, tax breaks, and tax shelters, etc. Very similar types of individuals and concerns we're talking about there, and which is why those things tend to continue to be passed. But here again, your core point of this being a lawsuit, I am not going to find myself in favor of the concept saying that someone commenting on your campaign donation is defamatory. I guess I'm not surprised that has happened here. It brings up certain issues for me about that going forward. So I wouldn't be surprised if it gets at least, according to Austin American Statesman anyway from today, that also hoping to remove the case from the energy executive's county of choice. So I doubt this will be over just immediately here. But yeah, money in politics is a fraught concept, which is why, as much as there's an interesting movement happening, at least one of the local petitions that has been submitted on the idea of publicly financed elections, it's an interesting concept, and one that, if it could be done perfectly, I would probably find myself in favor of. But given the, again, very, very, very fraught nature of the situation I'm not exactly going to expect it to, I'm not going to hold my breath on it anyway, group. So thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate it here. We got at least time for one more call on the line here. Again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Jerry in the Mission Valley on the line here with us right now. Jerry, thanks for joining us.
I want to I like to say that, they say that, and I believe it, that we live in the most corrupt city in Texas, and I believe it. I'll tell you one thing. Was there a petition they were passing out a petition around El Paso about, changing the way elections of the city council were, how they were elected, and it was supposed to be financed by the taxpayers. I don't know if that petition is still circulating, because I'm going to sign it.
Yes, I do believe that it has either been submitted or is in like the final process of it is. So in that case, you may have missed your chance to sign it, though the actual chance to vote on it, given that most of the petitions that we've talked about and that have been submitted so far, including that the Ground Game Texas, Sunrise El Paso, and the El Paso Climate Charter, that one primarily pushed City Council to move most of those until we look at next May, that election there. So you'll still get a chance to have your say on it if it did indeed successfully go there. And of course, another petition that is, I know, still percolating through is, and I've been getting people sending it to me, including people that I worked with professionally and have had to deal with in the homeowner world, have been embarking on about that whole county commissioners and the UMC certificates of obligation issue. That one also, I know, is still percolating out there. That one for sure, I can tell you, is elpasopetition.com is where you can find that. The other one, let me see if I can pull that up here, because I think that was from the, don't let me lie to you about saying where it is. If I can pull it up here, I'll mention it. But otherwise, yeah, a lot of these have been kind of getting worked on. I want to say Justicia Fronteriza was one of the ones pushing forward with those different levels. El Pasoans for Fair Election, more specifically, is the special PAC, the one that was focusing on those 3 propositions for the ballot, but it's not going to happen until next year at this point.
I think Veronica Carvajal was one of the persons
yes,
came out with that idea, and I was ready to sign it. One thing for sure, this city council doesn't have conscience. It looks like they don't have no fear of a higher power. I'm not going to say whoever you believe in. And don't they ever go to bed at night thinking if they were to die that same night or in another month, or they were going to be heading towards? No, really, this city is corrupt, and it is the most corrupt city in the state of Texas because of the taxation. And I don't like the police around this stupid city. And that's all I have to say right now. Okay, but I'm going to sign that petition when I get a chance to. Have a good day.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for the point of the call. You have a good one there as well.
Bye-bye.
I mean, the petitions, again, I think that one, the one you're talking about there about reforming the way El Paso does elections itself here. Yeah, they got 3 propositions they were working on. I think we read them previously, but just as a reminder of it, limits contribution to political campaigns for mayor and city council to $1,000 per individual donor per election, requires campaign donors to disclose their place of employment, and requires the city to adopt enforcement provisions. Proposition B on that will establish public financing, for candidates for mayor and city council who voluntarily agree to limit their campaign contributions and expenditures and demonstrate community support for their candidacy. And Proposition C would eliminate the need for runoff elections for mayor and city council by using ranked choice voting, where voters rank candidates in order of preference, and if no candidate receives the majority, candidates with the fewest votes are eliminated, and the votes they receive transfer to the voter's second choice, and so on until there is a majority vote for one candidate. You can read this for yourself over on El Pasoans for fairelections.org if you want to take a look at that. So that one I do believe has been submitted now, if I'm not mistaken, but there are more that are percolating out there, and we'll keep talking about that here. And a lot more commentary on some of those here. So I tell you what, we're due for that next break right now, a bit overdue actually. So if you want to comment on the show, again, Free for All Friday is what we're doing and what we do each and every end of the week, meaning we'll take on all those subjects, which it does include the local ones. I don't begrudge them at all on a day like today, but we'll take them all on. If you want to call in that number again, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. City leaders in Socorro met in executive session last night to discuss a council member's arrest. City Representative Ruben Reyes was arrested on August 11th for DWI and unlawful carrying of a weapon. City officials did not disclose what was discussed last night. Ultimately, no action was taken because it's an open investigation. Governor Greg Abbott today signaled support for a years-long call by women's healthcare advocates to remove taxes on menstrual products like tampons and panty liners. Texas is one of more than 24 states that still taxes the products. Other Republicans have joined Democrats in voicing their support for eliminating the tampon tax in this year's legislative session. Other healthcare necessities, such as medicine and bandages, are already exempt from sales tax in Texas. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
No major accidents on your El Paso freeways right now. I-10 is slow westbound between the Loop and the 54 Patriot with 8-minute delays. Right lane is closed on I-10 westbound from Schuster to Executive Center Boulevard for ongoing road work. An injury accident on Alameda Avenue eastbound at Valverde. And Wrestler at Red, that's another injury accident there slowing traffic. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Another surge of moisture will bring widespread rain to the area over the next couple of days. Expect a mostly cloudy to overcast sky tonight with an 80% chance for heavy rain and storms. Overnight lows will also cool into the middle to upper 60s by early Saturday morning. Coming up tonight, we'll talk about that heavy rain threat through the upcoming weekend, plus when we can expect things to dry out. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Kira Miner.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples helps with all your school printing. Right now, get 30% off school-related prints when you spend $25 or more. In-store only. Offer ends 8/27. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/school printing for coupon and details. Don't go back to school. Go forward to school at Staples, the working and learning store.
Maybe you've had to put off a health appointment or two during the COVID-19 pandemic, but if you're 45 or older, there's one test you shouldn't put off any longer. That's your regular screening for colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer is the leading cancer killer, but can be prevented with regular screenings starting at age 45. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. It takes guts to put your health first. Ask your doctor about your options today and visit cdc.gov/screen4life for more information.
More than 20 years, the Window Depot has provided the best price and the biggest inventory on in-stock vinyl windows. And now the Window Depot is more than a window store, offering homeowners and contractors a one-stop warehouse full of interior and exterior doors, granite and quartz countertops, in-stock cabinetry, and flooring and tile to finish your project. Their team of professionals will help with everything from pre-kitchen design to custom orders from leading manufacturers like Milgard and Geldwin. Order online or find a location near you at thewindowdepot.com.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., and let's talk El Paso.
We'll bring you the story of the Baltimore Colts, the football team that helped revitalize Baltimore and kickstart the NFL, but also broke the city's heart. Be sure to listen to this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank
to needing it. Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the very many social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of commentary coming in on there, and so I don't want this poetry thing to become a thing, but just by saying it, I probably ensured that most likely here, because no, we do not have a daily poetry reading. I just want to quash that right away as much as possible. So no, you didn't miss the poem of the day there, Matt Olson, but we'll see what happens. Free for All Friday is what we're doing, so just reiterate what we ask. If anyone has something they want to read or have us read, you just email me. It's truly not that hard. I try to be decently responsive there, even if the spam filters may be a little bit overly aggressive sometimes. At least one question out there. If you didn't get it, let me know. That was answered there. Ed Clore otherwise asking, how did we get smart meters crammed down our throats? I guess I'm not surprised that it's happening, even if it's, well, given that it's not a home appliance or a consumer-based good, that it's utility-based, yeah, I guess the writing's been on the wall there for a minute, and why I have a level of concerns, even if, I mean, the simple fact of not having to have someone actually come out and read the meter makes a level of sense. The further implications with that, yeah, let's just say I'll never have a smart thermostat in my house. I'll have one programmable, but one that can be accessed via Wi-Fi. It just gives me the heebies. And Mondo kind of letting us know about it, maybe an issue with our traffic. We'll take a look at that. Appreciate that note there. RJ over on the YouTube saying, can't believe El Paso is putting a $5 million bond on climate change up for a vote. Climate change is a hoax there, saying further. I mean, I don't think it's exactly a $5 million bond itself. More specifically, what is going to be going on with that? Again, expecting that charter amendment to come up potentially in, again, May is when it has been moved to from the November election, will be some core changes to actual how city government works, including adding a new department that would have a lot of review and things going on with, well, different levels of city business. At almost all levels, actually, now that I think about it. Again, that from Ground Game Texas and the Sunrise Move in El Paso. We talked about, again, had that interview previously. So, yes, there's going to be costs associated with it, but it's also not quite as simple as just saying it's a bond. It's charter changes coming on with that one. And James Radcliffe saying on the idea of that difference. And I've had some conversations with people. Was supposed to be having a conversation yesterday, but it got rescheduled even further about what's going on with that El Paso petition. Let me make sure I got that website right here. ElPasoPetition.com is the site where they have the information. And again, random people that I don't even necessarily always talk to have been sending it to me as well, just kind of concerned in my life about this, about the tax increase that would be coming from the UMC County Hospital District certificates of obligation. So I'm sure we'll be getting into that here as well. James Radcliffe also asking, isn't the electric company a public utility? Where's our vote on a matter of smart meters? I mean, yes, it is a public utility in that it is the only real utility of that size and scale here in our region, but it's also a privately owned corporation. So there are certain, it's more regulatory than it comes to an actual vote. Essentially, you are voting on that whenever it comes to who you select for city council, because they are the ones that end up dealing with the rate cases that come every so often and end up being an amount asked for, and it cut roughly in half and then ultimately passed throughout. So it's yes, but no. I know it's a frustrating, I've been criticized about that, but it's the most honest answer I can give you, that yes, there is regulation, and so you do have elected official input, but you're not exactly going to get to vote on it either here. And John Browson pointing out, yeah, what's being talked about there, $2 a month for 12 years. I hadn't heard that part of it here, but definitely the $2 fee potentially coming along with that. Let's get to those phone lines right now. Again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Tim Collins having trouble with commenting there. We don't ban anyone. Anytime we have, we've made it very clear when we've done so. So if you're falling afoul of Facebook's issues there, that's been more common. Let's just say that's why we're in a bunch of different places: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. But getting back to those phone lines here, we do have, again, the phone number to call is 915-544-5876, for KTSM. Full up at the moment, but if you want to squeeze in, you can. We do have Andrew on the west side here with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, Andrew, could you please tell me what is the tax rebate or the concerning electric cars in this Inflation Reduction Act?
I don't have that right in front of me here, but give me a minute. I'll be able to pull it up. But I know that it's essentially tax credits, I want to say, is what it comes down to.
Yes. I appreciate that. Anyway, but my question is to the general audience out there. How is that going to benefit individuals who use their standard deductions and don't itemize?
Honestly, that's a good question. I'm not a medical official. I am not a lawyer, and I am not an accountant. So I know that there is a $77,500 tax credit that is going to be a part of it here. So there's part of the answer for you. But how that would deal with the other one, my assumption, without knowing for sure, is it would be considered along with like the child tax credit. So it may not impact the standard deduction, but I'm not 100% on that either. That's just my assumption at the moment.
Yeah, just food for thought. Also, what I wanted to bring up was there's going to be something like 600 families in New York City, 600 migrant families in New York City that are going to be housed by the mayor at taxpayer expense at the Row Hotel in Times Square.
Okay, that sounds about right here. Actually, Governor Greg Abbott sending out a release a little bit earlier today, not too long before our airtime here. Yeah, a little bit earlier this afternoon, saying that announcing and highlighting that Texas has bused over 7,000 migrants to our nation's capital since April and over 900 migrants to New York City since August 5th, quoting directly from release from the governor's office here.
Well, yeah, they are a sanctuary city, and they take pride in that. So they might as well share the burden that people on the border area are going through.
I mean, yeah, I have a set of mixed emotions here. I mean, anytime we're using people in a way to make a political point, and I know that there's not necessarily being forced at gunpoint into these things, but I mean, there might not be exactly a choice. But at the same time, the amount of kind of schadenfreude as we're seeing from leadership in D.C. and New York City about how are we supposed to deal with this is like you're saying this is one of the worst things that's happened there lately. That's Tuesday here, my dude. So I have a little frustration that I'm also feeling about their response to this.
No, well, like I said, I don't feel sorry for Mayor Adams, because like I said, these Democrats brought it upon themselves. Now they have to deal with like we have to deal with it here on the border. Another thing I wanted to respond to Comrade Raul, he talks about big donations by these plutocrats. Well, the Democratic Party is full of plutocrats, and just recently, Beto O'Rourke received $2 million from a pair of Austin philanthropists.
Yep, that was widely reported as well.
And also, in the month of July, he received $1 billion from none other than George Soros.
Did you say a billion with a B there?
1 million.
Million. Okay, I was going to say, I wasn't saying that the donation didn't happen, but if it was $1 billion, I thought that would have made bigger headlines.
No, well, yeah, $1 million from billionaire George Soros.
Gotcha. Okay, now we're on the same page.
Yes, sir. Yes. So, like I said, you can't just say that one party has its plutocrats when the Democratic Party itself is full of them. So they're each trying to, put their money into their favorite candidate. It happens on both sides. It happens in all parties.
Yeah, and the phrase that's been in the back of my mind since we started talking about that here is that when you point the finger, you got three that point right back at you. So that definitely applies here, because anyone decrying it, or at least in an office that's decrying it, usually isn't saying, and that's why I have forsworn it off, or if it has happened, that's why they usually pretty quickly end up leaving office.
Yes, sir. Anyway, I turn the mic back over to you, and have a good weekend.
You there as well. Appreciate the point in the call. Hope you have a good one, and stay safe out there as well.
Thank you.
All right, tell you what, we're due for that next break right now. I know we got more callers on the line, and we got more comments. We'll be getting to all of that as much as we can. We're not even through the first hour of the show here, so don't worry. We got a lot more to come here on Talk El Paso. Free for All Friday is what we are doing, and we will continue to do so. Again, if you want to get on the line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On the 54 Patriot northbound at the Fred Wilson exit, an accident reported. I-10 is slow and getting slower westbound between the Loop and the 54 Patriot now with 14-minute delays. A disabled truck's blocking the right shoulder in the lower valley on 375 southbound at Pan American Drive. And an injury accident eastbound Pebble Hills between Joe Battle and Sunfire. Avoid that by taking Tierra Este. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. Fall into autumn hiring with Indeed. Their all-in-one solution makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates. Sponsor a job and immediately get a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Once again, we were El Paso's #1 dealer in new Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram sales in July. Thank you, El Paso and surrounding areas.
How did you do that again?
We have the best inventory and the best prices in town with exceptional trade-in values.
You heard the boss. Get big savings on every new and certified pre-owned vehicle in our huge inventory. Save thousands in interest with 0% APR for 72 months on new 2022 Dodge Chargers and Challengers. Plus, huge savings and super low 2.9% APR for 72 months on 2022 Ram trucks. All military personnel and all first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Trade and upgrade for less during the Make This a Summer event at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun at I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 0 APR is $13.89 and 2.9% APR is $15.15 per thousand finance on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Almost 3 million people use Navage to breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. I'm Martin Hoke, and I invented Navage, the world's only nose cleaner that helps flush out airborne germs with powered suction. But what do doctors have to say about Navage? Here's Dr. Tonya Farmer, a board-certified ear, nose, and throat specialist.
Most airborne allergens and viruses enter through your nose. When that happens, it can cause congestion and irritation, and that just makes you feel miserable. You can get a cold, you can get flu, sinus infections, or even worse. Flushing your nose with a saline solution is the most effective way to flush all of those dangerous threats out of your nose. So now when patients come in my office, I tell them I highly recommend that you use Navage on a daily basis for overall good health and wellness.
And Navage is all natural and drug-free at Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, and Target. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E, clean nose, healthy life.
This week, Red Pilled America delves into the story behind what really happened with President Nixon. Understanding the ignored truth behind his story reveals a dark mission you need to know about. Listen to Red Pilled America every week on the free iHeartRadio app. That's Red Pilled America.
M1EP.com. Superior multifamily property management services citywide.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to interact with the show. Coming up on the end of the first hour here, but you know we got more coming up for you in the second hour of the program here. Again, if you want to get on the line, the number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. A lot of comments coming here as well. RJ commenting on the what Governor Abbott is doing there on that release we talked about a little bit earlier. Barbara Carrasco saying a correction yesterday, talking about 2,000 illegal immigrants crossing the U.S. and Eagle Pass in 1 hour was over 24 hours, which she's correcting to say here. And RJ further saying that it's a basic New York City and D.C. NIMBY policy. That one of my favorite acronyms, not in my backyard. Meaning, sure, I don't mind if it's somewhere else, but I don't want it near me. and that applies in a whole lot of ways here. And again, if you're ever having any issues with commenting, chiming in, viewing the program in any of our social media outlets, we do have it on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch for a reason. Not that we feel that it's one platform is essentially better than the other, but the spread of it, making sure that whatever works best for you is available. That's the way we do it here. So we'll get to at least one more call on the line here before we get to the top of the hour here. We do have Frankie and Messia on the line with us here right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
All right, way to go. Happy Friday. I got my whiskey, my beer, and it's Friday, and you're on, and it doesn't get any better than this. So, right out of the box, I want to augment what you mentioned and what Raul said about this whole this whole structure about how we do voting here. I say change the Constitution, get rid of lobbyists. That's number one. Number two, get rid of all the money. This Citizens United stuff, forget it. Total public financing of it, not to withstand the fact that used to be way back, you kicked in $1 on your taxes and everybody complained about that. But get rid of the money, right? Find some kind of public financing, whether you like it or not, evenly divided, however you want to do that, presidential, senatorial, state, whatever the heck it is, and go with that. Once these people become elected, they take that oath. If they fail in that oath for whatever reason, at worst, they are hanged, drawn, and quartered. At the very least, they're put in stocks and have, I don't know, rotten burritos and thrown at them until for the next 7 days. That's how you fix this stuff. Get rid of the money. That's what I want to say.
Yeah, very interesting solutions mentioned there, but I'll say that, yeah, the conundrum of money in politics has been one that, I mean, if you get into the phrase lobbyist, comes from the origination, I want to say, more or less, pro-Civil War, the Grant administration is when I recall it first emerging, and when it was that people literally would be waiting in the lobby to speak with people and try to get them and convince them that way. The problem is that our system has ever since that point essentially evolved along with it. So as much as it is a very easy thing to say, get rid of the money and everything will be fine, that kind of be like saying, get rid of the cancer and we'll be fine. Oh, by the way, it's stage 4 and is in literally every organ of the body. So yeah, by excising it, you're essentially just throwing away the whole damn body there. So I'm not saying I'm opposed to it. I'm just saying that recognizing that it will be a quite difficult task indeed, unentwining it from almost literally every level of government that we have. I mean, I can't think of one that where the donations do not have a definable impact would be essentially, we're talking about not even just an amendment, but probably a whole set and rewriting of sections of the Constitution is what that would take here. So I would love to see it happen, but I think if we don't start on things like getting money out in specific ways, such as like insider trading of Congress and like campaign donation limitations, that would be a good first step, but it would take, I mean, it's going to take probably generations to truly see it through.
Well, okay, I mean, but you got to start somewhere. The first step on a long journey, I mean, a long journey begins with its first step, okay? So all I'm saying, you got to start somewhere. You can't continue to go down this ridiculous path where you've got laziness, apathy, and whatever other negative aspect that you've got relative to how your exercise of your constitutional right to vote. That's all I'm saying. You need to fix it and stop all this whataboutism stuff. Get rid of that too. Anyway, have a nice weekend.
You too as well. Appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there. Stay safe.
All right.
All right. Tell you what, that's going to take us to the top of the hour here. You are again tuned into Talk El Paso, airing live here on News Radio 690 KTSM. A lot more comments coming in, more calls. So if you're on the line, stay there. If you want to get on that line, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Back after this break in the top of the hour news. Don't go anywhere. For more Talk El Paso, you're on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On the 54 Patriot northbound at the Fred Wilson exit, an accident reported. I-10 is slow and getting slower westbound between the Loop and the 54 Patriot now with 14-minute delays. A disabled truck's blocking the right shoulder in the lower valley on 375 southbound at Pan American Drive. And an injury accident eastbound Pebble Hills between Joe Battle and Sunfire. Avoid that by taking Tierra Este. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
There won't be much substance on your news feed until you add us. Just like us or click on the link at kcsmradio.com.
If you see something, why do you say something?
I see safe for my friends.
For my community.
for everyone here. We all have something worth protecting, a why that unifies us. Report suspicious activity to local authorities. If you see something, say something.
There are things that go together that make mornings better. Coffee and cream, bacon and eggs, pancakes and syrup.
Let's take a look at traffic and weather together.
Traffic and weather, yeah. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio. Updates all day long.
General things like that help me get through my day.
Before you head out, get together with our traffic and weather. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. A top Federal Reserve official is refusing to say anything specific about another possible interest rate hike next month. Speaking in Maryland, Richmond Fed President Thomas Barkin said there's still plenty of time to determine how large a potential increase needs to be. Former Vice President Mike Pence is hitting back at calls from some Republicans to take away money from the FBI.
I think that calls to defund the FBI are just as wrong as calls to defund the police.
GOP House members, including Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia and Lauren Boebert of Colorado, have called for defunding the FBI following last week's search of former President Trump's South Florida estate. Meantime, the vice chair of the January 6th House Committee says the panel is in discussions with former Vice President Pence's counsel. Wyoming Republican Liz Cheney told ABC News everyone who has information about last year's Capitol riot has an obligation to step forward. Americans are being warned about the increased risk of crime and kidnapping in Mexico. The Department of State reissued a travel advisory recommending that American citizens refrain from traveling in several central and southern states in the country. There's new gun legislation being introduced that's designed to hold the industry accountable for dangerous practices. Lisa Taylor reports.
Led by New York Democrat Carolyn Maloney, the Firearm Industry Fairness Act would hold manufacturers at fault for selling assault weapons to civilians. It would impose a 20% tax on companies that produce the weapons, such as those used in recent mass shootings in Buffalo, Uvalde, Texas, and Highland Park, Illinois. Another bill being introduced is called the Firearm Industry Crime and Trafficking Accountability Act.
The last victim, who was found in a big rig with dozens of illegal immigrants in Texas, is out of the hospital. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. A new study is suggesting COVID-19 can impair brain function. Sarah Lee Kessler reports.
Researchers at Oxford University found that 2 years after being hospitalized for COVID, recovering patients were at a higher risk of psychosis, dementia, and brain fog. They studied over 1 million cases, mostly in the U.S., and found people ages 18 to 64 had a 16% higher rate of brain fog than patients with other respiratory illnesses. Even the milder Omicron variant, currently dominant, had similar long-term effects.
A committee formed by Mayor Lori Lightfoot is recommending that 2 Christopher Columbus statues shouldn't be returned to a pair of Chicago parks. The Chicago Monuments Project Advisory Committee says they should be replaced with new monuments. The statues were removed in July 2020 over protests concerning the murder of George Floyd in Minnesota and the deadly police shooting of Breonna Taylor in Kentucky. Japan is launching a contest to encourage young people to drink more alcohol.
The country's national tax agency wants people ages 20 to 39 to come up with new ideas to help breathe new life into the sagging alcohol industry. Japan blames falling sales on declining birth rates, on aging population, and the coronavirus pandemic. The tax agency hopes the contest will encourage young people to come up with business plans to promote alcoholic beverages. I'm Michael Kastner.
New York and New Jersey are among the top 5 states on Forbes' Most Spoiled Dogs list. The national survey used metrics like money spent on care, frequency of home-cooked meals, vacation inclusion, clothing and accessories, and even birthday parties for pups. New York was number 1 in the U.S., with 59% of Empire State dogs sporting outfits and accessories, and 25% enjoying walks in strollers. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now your chance at $1,000 and a trip to our 2022 iHeartRadio Music Festival. Text the nationwide keyword music to 200-200. You'll get a
confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's music to 200-200.
This report is sponsored by the Ben Ferguson Podcast.
Democrats declare war on all conservatives who doubt the FBI, now claiming you're a domestic terrorist. Coming up on the Ben Ferguson Podcast, we'll look at the Mar-a-Lago raid and why it may have been illegal. Download the Ben Ferguson Podcast now.
Maybe you've had to put off a health appointment or two during the COVID-19 pandemic. But if you're 45 or older, there's one test you shouldn't put off any longer. Regular screening for colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer is a leading cancer killer, but it can be prevented with regular screening starting at 45. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. It takes guts to put your health first. Ask your doctor about your options today. Visit cdc.gov/screen4life for more information.
Save money and energy all summer by keeping your thermostat at 78 or higher.
You're listening to me for free right now, and that's awesome because more and more things aren't free right now. I mean, think about all the things you're paying for daily, monthly, yearly. Well, here's something that won't add to that list: the free iHeartRadio app. Podcasts, streaming music, digital radio, all free. It's the future of audio, and unlike almost everything else in your life right now, except maybe air, it doesn't cost $1. So take advantage of this. Listen to everything you love on the iHeartRadio app for free.
iHeartRadio. First, we decide where we want to go. Then we need to know the best way to get there. Hi, my name's Adam Barada. I'm the owner of Advantage Gold. We're the highest rated precious metals firm in the country. We teach people how to own physical gold and silver. Now, we've won the Best of TrustLink Award 4 years in a row because we educate our clients on how to buy gold and silver the right way. We don't pay celebrity spokespeople millions of dollars. We'd rather pass that value on to you. Call 800-900-8000 and speak with one of our experts. We'll send you a free gold kit along with my latest #1 national best-selling book, The Great Devaluation. Call 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000. Get the best information, the best process, the best service, the best value. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000. Call 800-900-8000.
Advantage Gold is not an investment advisor or a tax advisor. Consult with your financial advisor before investing.
Call 800-900-8000.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. We got a lot of stuff we're talking about here today and a lot of ways you can interact with the show. Of course, we are streaming on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages are all good ways to get at us here. Again, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch are the platforms we are on. Facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch.tv. Andrew J. Polk can leave us comments through most of those platforms here. It's more or less kind of a DM or tweet response thing over on Twitter. But hey, if you want to do it that way, you can of course see it and get it a lot more, because we put it out in all those ways in order to make it just accessible to y'all. So we also got that phone line for that matter. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. I mean, we have got so much ground we have covered this week, but then also just more than we can ever get to in any particular day. And that's a hell of a comparison and a list there. Whiskey, beer, and Andrew. I am not sure how I feel about this list being brought up there. Ion Grimm mentioning here Don Brazelton about the president and COVID there. And EFR over on the YouTube saying, wow, I actually agree with Frankie. What's wrong with me? Maybe Frankie needs to drink more often. RJ bringing up the Frankie left turns whiskey logic. Did he say to get rid of the Constitution? I don't know if he said that specifically, but I said to do some of those goals immediately would involve a lot of changes to very base parts of the Constitution in order to guarantee it couldn't happen. So maybe he didn't, but maybe I kind of insinuated that truly and permanently accomplishing that goal without like societal change around it would be, pretty significant here. And a lot more comments coming in on things like that. If you want to chime in over there, and and I am now saying I should run fast. I'll get to the beer later. Don't worry. In any case, if you want to chime in again, social media or Facebook and all of them, and the number 915-544-5876-544 KTSM. We do have Barbara on the west side here with us right now. Barbara, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew, for taking my call.
Mhm.
It's Friday.
Absolutely.
This morning, I saw an ad on television on the Inflation Act, and they were touting that we would now be energy independent, and it was going to create 9.5 million jobs. I'd like to remind your listening audience that we were energy independent, and we weren't being bankrupt under the Trump administration like we are under the Biden administration. And I want to talk about the green new jobs that they tout they're going to create, and in particular how the EVs, the electrical vehicles, are not going to meet their projections. Number one, they have set a time frame of 2023 where they want the United States to be mining here in the U.S.
Right.
Well, it takes over 10 years to just start a mine. And not only that, the Biden administration has already put restrictions on mining minerals here in the United States. But 70% of the cobalt is mined in the Congo, and let's remember, by children. 60% of the lithium in Australia, 40% of the manganese in South Africa, and 40% of the nickel in Indonesia. There aren't even, everything else is other, and we don't even have a smidgen of production there or processing. Then they want to set processing and production by 2026 in the USA. Well, for processing, China has 75% of cobalt, 60% of lithium, and these are Wall Street Journal figures on the report, 85% of manganese, and 70% of nickel. So China owns the market, okay?
Yeah.
And in production, China has 75% of the anodes, the cathodes, and the battery cells, 75%. And and Manchin, when asked about this, he says, well, tell the automakers they should work harder. Obviously, he knows nothing about mining, nothing about production, and he doesn't know that the finished product is 77% done by China. Plus, in addition to everything I just said, they control the supply chain. So their timeline on this bill is absolutely outrageous and out in the sky. But on energy independence, what this bill did is it reinstated the biggest offshore oil and gas lease in U.S. history.
Mm-hmm.
That was done under the Trump administration. It was blocked in January of 2020. The Biden administration did not do anything to appeal that decision by the court to make sure that this lease went through. In March of 2019, under the Trump administration, this lease brought in $191 million. And it encompasses 81 million acres in the Gulf of Mexico. That's a huge, huge lease. Mm-hmm. So if any jobs created from this project are given credit under Biden, that's not true, because the lease was signed, sealed, and delivered under Trump. And so what the National Ocean Industries Association is stating, that it's been approved now, it's been reinstated, and that the highest bidders must get their lease. So while President Trump was in office, when he unleashed our oil and gas industries, he created 1.7 million, almost 2 million jobs. So this idea that the Inflation Act is going to create 9.5 million jobs is not true. If this project itself just created it, and it may create less than 1 million, I figure, because this isn't the whole oil and gas industry. It's just a segment of it.
Sure.
So take off 2 million jobs. That leaves you 7.5 million. What I just said on the electric vehicles, that takes the electric chargers, the electric vehicles, production of batteries and all that. It's a prize. This is a windfall to China. So it's so disturbing that They don't even know. They didn't even read the bill, and they're putting these ads on TV. And I'm sure Americans are smarter than to listen to an ad and believe it. I mean, it was so outrageous. And then regarding the C2 emissions, the CO2 emissions, and I've stated before that there's a book called Unsettled by Stephen E. Koonin. He was the former Undersecretary of Science under the Obama administration, who has written a really good book on climate change. But this expert, Bjorn Lomborg, has stated that in a century, what this bill proposes will not even have reduced global temperature by 0.028 degrees Fahrenheit. So everything this bill encompasses is a dream, is not true. So the American people are wiser and smarter, I believe, than what the Biden administration gives us credit for. Nothing, like I said before, nothing that this administration does is what they say it is. They just name things, do things, say things that are so untrue, and then they want to take credit for someone else's work. So El Paso, wake up, go vote, and vote this administration out. And I would say our Congresswoman too, but she signed for this bill. She approved the bill. She's in favor of the bill. I don't think she read 2 chapters of it. I could be wrong, but I doubt it, because the way they pass these bills, it's, sign it and get it to the president's desk. And he, of course, has no comprehension of what he's signing or doing, in my opinion. So we have to get a new administration that knows what they're doing and will move our country forward and make us prosperous once again.
I certainly hope that would be that way. And yeah, I'm not going to be surprised if anyone didn't read this. I'm trying to get the amount of pages in it here, the actual act itself. I know it was in the order of hundreds, so I'm not sure about that. So do appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Thank you, Andrew. Have a good weekend.
You too as well. I mean, the facts and factors of this, actually, one previous caller, or at least someone during one of our breaks, did have a point they want to make about that part of what you're talking about here. And maybe not the whole thing, a lot of what you're talking about. When it comes to the batteries and the battery materials, there is a provision there that doesn't exactly prohibit the use of it, but the full amount of the actual tax credits that comes with it. Looking at, mostly it's coming out of NPR here, that they've got 40% of battery materials in cars made before 2024 must meet the standard of being either coming from a country the U.S. has a free trade agreement with, or that are recycled in North America to count as that way, but otherwise focusing on extracting and being processed domestically. So there is a standard in there, but whether or not that'll totally apply, I mean, there's a lot of speculation that on the construction of these, even down that base level, is going to take on the order of years, if not decades. Maybe not total number of decades, but at least a decade to get that going here. As much as there's been talk about multiple plants being started on doing the domestic, even just manufacturing, but then, yeah, the supply issue is kind of a critical one there. I mean, sure, if recycling technology catches up, that would be a good thing, but I'm not going to hold my breath on that in the moment. Or some of those other efforts, including the one that was in our area, not too far from you, get a little bit further west into some of those mountains out near Waco tanks and that kind of thing. That would be good. RJ saying 3,000 pages. I think that sounds about right here. And EFR, not as optimistic as Barbara was there, saying that a vast majority is so gullible they'll believe anything they see on TV. That's why we have the elected officials we now have. I would hope people, I remember reading ironically enough, poster back in high school about the difference between propaganda and actual coverage here, but I feel like it wasn't maybe the best received or put out message by a lot of people here. Anyway, we're going to go and take that next break right now. A lot more comments coming in, including Dottie Butler Taurus, RJ, EFR, and more over on our various social media pages. Again, if you want to get on the line, add your 2 cents. That phone number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On your El Paso freeways, the CD lanes on I-10 westbound at Sunland Park. There's a stalled Greyhound bus in the right lane. Stay to the left. Gateway Boulevard eastbound at Horizon, an accident with multi-vehicle crash blocking the left lane. I-10 westbound still slow this afternoon from the loop to the 54 Patriot with 10-minute delays. And there's a crash dire southbound at Threadgill Avenue. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Allstate. Are you a safe driver? Are you looking to save money? With DriveWise from Allstate, the safer you drive, the more you can save. At Allstate, better protection costs a whole lot less. Visit allstate.com or call an agent for a quote today.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Once again, we were El Paso's #1 dealer in new Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram sales in July. Thank you, El Paso and surrounding areas.
How did you do that again?
We have the best inventory and the best prices in town with exceptional trade-in values.
You heard the boss. Get big savings on every new and certified pre-owned vehicle in our huge inventory. Save thousands in interest with 0% APR for 72 months on new 2022 Dodge Chargers and Challengers. Plus, huge savings and super low 2.9% APR for 72 months on 2022 Ram trucks. All military personnel and all first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Trade and upgrade for less during the Make This a Summer event at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun at I-10 and Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso strong. Includes factory rebate and deal discount plus TTNL. 0 APR is $13.89 and 2.9% APR is $15.15 per thousand finance on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
It can happen easily. A few drinks become a few too many. It's time to go, and you think of calling for a ride home. Nah, what's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
Today on Hey Culligan, soft water, cleaner environment. What do you say, Greg?
Hey Culligan, are you saying if I have a Culligan high-efficiency water softener, I'm also helping the environment?
It sounds like you're saying it, Greg, and yes, you are, because with the Culligan high-efficiency water softener, you'll use less detergent, soap, and harsh chemicals, and that's good for the planet.
Now you're saying it.
You bet I am, Greg. Soft water and a cleaner environment is already on the way. Let us help you out with a free in-home water test from a local Culligan water expert at Culligan.com.
It can happen easily. A few drinks become a few too many. It's time to go, and you think of calling for a ride home. Nah, what's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
Next Thursday, you will be caught in an extreme flash flood.
Disasters don't plan ahead, but you can. Talk to your loved ones about making an emergency plan. Get started today at ready.gov/plan. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming from the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments coming in here. And a lot of things being made there. A lot of comments coming in, including just the way people refer to themselves here. Dottie Butler Torres, appreciating what Barbara had to say as well. And the comments give me life in a lot of ways. So if you want to chime in over there, you're more than welcome to. And dropping those likes and reacts, we do appreciate Ed Clore, Matt Olson, Tim Collins, Robert Haynes, Ion Grimm, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, Ida Beza Gardner, and more, plus Louis Pinato. So whatever it just helps with the algorithmic things. But of course, we have that phone line open as well. That number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Let's get back to those here real quick. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention before we do that is that that mural we mentioned earlier this week, got some progress update photos found online with them, and it is taking shape there on one of the smaller sides of the side of one San Jacinto Plaza, what I would still call the Chase building, even though it's not theirs anymore. If you want to see that downtown, yeah, that'll be taking shape, still moving on there. So I think it might take until next week. But yeah, that's happening. If you want to see it for yourself and make your own determination. Anyway, get back to those phone lines now. Again, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. We have Johnny in Central on the line with us here right now. Johnny, thanks for joining us.
Yes, good afternoon. I'd like to touch on some things that I've been hearing and seeing in the last few days. I've been looking at how we've been having all this rage going on around the country, all of this violence and so forth and so on, and people getting upset over what happened at the former president's house in Florida.
Sure.
And I wish that they would show the same rage and the same sorrow for some of these shootings that's been taking place for the last couple of years, give or take, here in El Paso, schools, churches all around the country. People getting killed from young children on up until their senior years, murdered by these assault-type weapons. I wish that some of these people would show the same rage as they are about one man's house being so-called, the term they use, being raided. And maybe we could get some reaction from the public, but no one, it seems like every time there's a shooting, it's a whole home day. You know, it's thoughts and prayers, maybe a couple of words of sentiment, and then we go on. But they meaning whoever's out here is supporting the former president. They acting like it's the worst crime in the world. And of course, we haven't had anything like this. People keep saying they hadn't had before. If he is indicted or whatever, the country's going to go crazy because nothing has ever happened like this before. Of course, nothing has ever happened like this before because we never had a president act like this before and cause all this rage and violence. And what concerns me about the violence is not so much as these groups that has been doing things. I'm concerned about these lone wolves that's going in and, killing people. They're the most successful ones, and people keep talking about the 18 to 21. It doesn't matter about the age. It could be a 40-year-old pick up their weapon, do the same thing. To be able to put this to some type of end, I would like to see these elected politicians who I've been seeing on TV support. I mean, they're using a lot of very convictive terms. I mean, elected politicians doing this. Also, TV hosts. They're putting all this venom out here too and causing all this. They're going to take this. They're going to take your guns. They're going to do this to you, which is not true. And lastly, I wish the former president would go on in front of a mic instead of going to these rallies and just get up on the stage and just tell the people who love and support him to please stop it. Please, we're not going to stop everybody, but some of those who believe in everything he says would pack up their weapons and go home. And maybe we can kind of get some peace in this country again, because a lot of people I talk to around the country, they feel the same way. A lot of them are afraid to leave the house because of all these crazy people out here threatening to kill people. And as I said before, whether the president is indicted or not indicted, it should not be enough to cause this country to go civil warish. If anything, I said before, get behind get and support these families who are still grieving over their loved ones.
I mean, I definitely will agree with you that support for those that have had, tragedy and horrific things happen to them and their loved ones that's very important. Of course, we've had such things such as here in our community. And as much as we've been very focused on some of the legal aspects going into that and the cases going on with it, yeah, that certainly is a level of concern that I have with it. And I'm not going to try to compare the circumstances you're describing there, either what happened at Mar-a-Lago or what happens, such as the things at Walmart here and other places. But let me just say, I can also understand a level of concern in different ways about these incidents. And I may take both with a grain of salt here, and everyone's, of course, welcome to make up their own mind about it. But when we're talking about the idea of bodily harm, shooting on the streets, those kind of things, as much as these incidents are very headline grabbing, very attention grabbing, and really do, bring a level of concern, I have had some decisions I've made in my own life based around what if such a circumstance were to occur to me, but also fully knowing and understanding that even with how much coverage they get, how much they are concerning, and again, they're very much their own right, that they are still essentially, when it comes to violence and even gun crimes themselves, the minority of it by most measures and estimates, including just such as FBI stats on actual gun crime. More likely to be heard and say a mugging incident. But again, these are serious threats in the way we were talked about and the way they influence our lives here. Some conversations having come up this week in other ways about how things like active shooter drills are done during school and the way that those might be just in general more harm than good here. So again, I'm not going to try to compare the seriousness or concern of these different types of incidents, but I will say this, as much as that might be the first set of circumstances, shootings you're talking about there would be very serious bodily harm one. I think a lot also see an existential threat to the very system of government we inhabit, with some shades of what may or may not have happened with that. I mean, as there are still debates going on over what happened with the FBI. Yes, I believe raid is the common colloquial term. They were serving a search warrant on the air, if you want to be very technical about it, and looking for those documents. But of course, we don't have the full affidavit on there. Some of the other legal aspects have come unsealed, but there's even more things to be debated there. Some see an existential threat to our country and continued way of life, essentially, from that, whether or not they even fully support the former president or not. Find myself somewhere in between there personally. But the idea of, a political consequences happening to former elected officials and future political opponents does have a level of concern that I also share when it comes to that. That's why I have been and continue to be very interested in seeing what details actually come out about what's happening there, the process, because sure, there are guaranteed to be some that would love to see and have political goals that they would like to see accomplished out of such incidents like that. But also there is a level of it's not a get out of jail free card either. If bad things have happened and being done, there has to be accountability for that as well. So that's the line I find myself on. So I don't think it's someone saying one thing and paying attention to one thing over necessarily another, but hitting them in different ways. Specifically, there are a lot of things that need to be changed and improved in this country. Make no mistake about it. And as much as I do not think it's really feasible for any, at least the ways I've heard it been put forth anyway, for it to be accomplished when it comes to dealing with gun violence and gun controls on the streets, if there were to be a feasible plan, one that I think could actually accomplish that goal without, say, just removing civil rights first and then seeing if it works later, I would find myself in favor of it, but I have not seen that solution yet here. So thank you very much for the point and the call. Do appreciate it. We got to take that next break right now. So coming out of this break, we will get to more calls, more of the comments, more of the things on the line here. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break. And that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. City leaders in Socorro met in executive session last night to discuss a council member's arrest. City Representative Ruben Reyes was arrested on August 11th for DWI and unlawful carrying of a weapon. City officials did not disclose what was discussed last night. Ultimately, no action was taken because it's an open investigation. Governor Greg Abbott today signaled support for a years-long call by women's healthcare advocates to remove taxes on menstrual products like tampons and panty liners. Texas is one of more than 24 states that still taxes the products. Other Republicans have joined Democrats in voicing their support for eliminating the tampon tax in this year's legislative session. Other healthcare necessities, such as medicine and bandages, are already exempt from sales tax in Texas. This has been your KFOX 14 news update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
On your El Paso freeways, an injury accident right now, I-10 westbound at Airway Boulevard. Police and medical on the scene. The I-10 CD lanes westbound at Sunland Park. Stalled Greyhound bus in the right lane. Dyer southbound at Threadgill accident. And an injury accident just showing up Copia at Missouri Avenue. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Another surge of moisture will bring widespread rain to the area over the next couple of days. Expect a mostly cloudy to overcast sky tonight with an 80% chance for heavy rain and storms. Overnight lows will also cool into the middle to upper 60s by early Saturday morning. Coming up tonight, we'll talk about that heavy rain threat through the upcoming weekend, plus when we can expect things to dry out. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Kira Miner.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. Fall into autumn hiring with Indeed. Their all-in-one solution makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates. Sponsor a job and immediately get a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Hello?
Mike, this is Norma Jean at Sergio Lewis Body Shop near the airport. Have you seen Sergio?
I'm expecting him in a few minutes to cut a new commercial.
I'm really worried about him, Mike. He really believes he's a poet. It's gone to his head.
There's plenty of room up there. Anyways, his poetry isn't that bad.
Will you please have him call the shop?
Sure, Norma.
That's Norma Jean, Mike. Gotta go.
Eee, she's feisty. Hey, Sergio, there you are.
Hey, Mike, I have this great new poem. Check this out, man. Sometimes even our darkest moments are enlightening. Hey, what's so funny, man?
Nothing, Sergio, really. By the way, Norma Jean called.
Really? What did she want?
Oh, she was just telling me what a big fan she is of your poetry, Sergio. Sergio Lewis Body Shop at 3800 Admiral near the airport, where it's the customer's choice, not the insurance company's, and there's a lifetime warranty on all collision repair. 593-0191.
Democrats declare war on all conservatives who doubt the FBI, now claiming you're a domestic terrorist. Coming up on the Ben Ferguson podcast, we'll look at the Mar-a-Lago raid and why it may have been illegal. Download the Ben Ferguson podcast now.
This report is sponsored by the Ben Ferguson podcast.
Titans go! When the Teen Titans go to the movies, they know the best way to travel is safely. Hollywood, here we come! And you know it's super. To keep your child safe, be sure to use the right car seat for their age and size.
Exactly.
I know you're feeling.
We're finally on the big screen.
Have a seat, my dude. For more information on finding the right seat, visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Gotcha. That's a wise move.
It's an upbeat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of stuff we're talking about here today. A lot of ways you can tune in, a lot of ways to interact with the show. Of course, Free For All Friday is what we like to call it, which is on this most important day of the week, from my perspective anyway. We're taking all of your comments and calls as much as we can cram into 2 hours of the show, which always leaves you wanting a little bit. I'll freely admit that, but hey, who knows what'll come next, because in any case, we'll take more calls on the line. Full up at the moment, but if you want to try to squeeze in, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Comments pretty constantly over on the social media. A lot of people dropping in, chiming in, and adding their 2 cents, including Steve Ivey, Ed Clore, Matt Olson, Tim Collins, Robert Haynes, Ione Grimm, Robbie Flores, Monaco Cervantes, Flaco Jimenez, and more, and Louis Pinato. Juan with an imploring to those on high here, not really, saying, Tommy Gonzalez, please fix our El Paso streets. Price to fix car shocks are not cheap. Not that I'm saying you're wrong there, but I got some bad news for you, that given the rain that we got, and particularly this weekend, I'm just going to forecast this right now. My crystal ball is as cloudy as ever, but past experience informing future possibilities here, we are probably going to have a lot of potholes coming up. So buckle up, literally and figuratively in that case here. Ione Grimm responding to the last caller here. Of course, there is rage, all caps, her emphasis there, against those where violent acts were against innocent people, but there must be sensible solutions to the violence. Banning guns is not reasonable. Again, if anyone could say that, then provide a foolproof plan for how to deal with this, I would be very much in favor of it, but there seem to be a lot of half measures and a lot of ideology involved with it, that things that may sound good and feel good but not actually do good, and that's where I find myself more opposed to some of the things that have come up here. But a lot more comments going there, and a lot more we'll take on the line here. Again, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Right before we get to that, I want to mention one thing that our news partners at National News Wires today, that there is new gun legislation being introduced that's designed to hold the industry accountable for dangerous practices, led by New York Democrat Carolyn Maloney. The Firearm Industry Fairness Act, FIFA I don't think they're calling it that, would hold manufacturers at fault for selling assault weapons to civilians, according to the bill. Using that terminology here, would impose a 20% tax on companies that produce the weapons, such as those used in Buffalo and Uvalde and Highland Park. Feds funds would go to gun violence prevention. That's just one that's going on right now. Anyway, back to those phone lines. We do have Stephen on the east side here with us right now. Stephen, thanks for joining us.
Good evening, Andrew.
Evening there. What's on your mind, Stephen?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people have been concerned about the way that our culture has been moving, and a lot of focus on the left side of the aisle is towards the gun itself. And on the right side of the aisle, people are more focused on why would a young person who should have their life ahead of them have so much hate in their heart that they want to go out and kill a bunch of people they don't even know oftentimes, or people in their high school or something like that. What is it about our culture that is driving this kind of madness and people to do something like that? And people on the right have been long saying that, you start demeaning these organizations, churches, things that kind of hold society together, and instead you replace them with government, then you're gonna be inviting all kinds of problems. And so, I think people need to look at their young children and take care of them and make responsible family choices, because a lot of these shooters are people who, they come from broken homes, they come from single parent homes, or at the very least, they aren't tending to the needs of their children. And that's almost every single time. When it comes to Donald Trump and the raid in Mar-a-Lago, I think the concern is the equal application of the law. And if you don't apply the law in the country, we're going to end up with chaos, and you're going to have a whole lot of people dying, not because of, raids like that, but just the entire system will break down. And, you kind of see that with the border crisis. I think we're going to have, under Joe Biden, the double amount of illegal immigrants in this country as there was before he entered office, which is quite an astounding achievement, because I suspect that they are doing that chaos on purpose. So it's an achievement for them, but chaos is never good. It's flooding the system, and you don't know who's going in. Now the stats are coming out that, record numbers of people who are on the terror watch list that are getting in as well. So I don't know why they think that's a benefit to Democrats. I don't know why they're doing it exactly, but I have no other explanation other than they must be doing it on purpose, because no one can be that incompetent. It's astounding. They can't possibly be that incompetent. And then when it comes to Donald Trump, they've been investigating him from before he became president. They were spying on his campaign. They listened to his conversations and his campaign people's conversations with other people. And I am still shocked that they have not found anything as a crime they can actually charge him with. Like, if you ever got into that big of a deep dive in investigations for years and years of Nancy Pelosi and her husband and their deals across, with all these other countries, and if you did that kind of deep dive with Joe Biden and his family, you would find all kinds of corruption. And so I'm still kind of shocked. I think at some point they are going to find some kind of technicality with Donald Trump, and they're going to be able to charge him with something. It's just inevitable, because everyone's going to mess up somewhere. And Bill Clinton got cleared on the tapes that he had in his sock drawer. I think there were conversations with other heads of state in other countries, and he took those tapes and had them in his sock drawer, and the courts cleared him on it because he's the president of the United States, and he can declassify anything he wants. He doesn't, even if it's just like, hey, I'm taking this, an oral agreement is enough, because he's the executive office of the presidency. So,
right.
So you can look at that case of Bill Clinton, and that's a good example of how wide reaching those powers are.
I mean, there's a reasonableness here. I mean, not that everything that is being declassified has to be announced here, but that's why, again, I'm very, very, very interested to see what information comes out about what happened there, what the information supposedly gathered was, what led to it, all of the details here. And as much as I'm super in favor of transparency, I mean, I understand that we'll probably never get all of it here, but as much as can be gleaned even from it will be very important because yeah, there are many different factors I'm considering on this. Of course, previous presidential powers, which are not infinite. They're not ad infinitum and throughout the rest of life here, but by, simple, declarations or by speaking them out loud, therefore by a declassifying process. But there is also what was included in it is of great interest to me because, of course, not all secret information is created equal. And some things that can be declassified would still raise major red flags if it were to be declassified. But I don't have that concrete details on that, so I'm not going to talk much more about that. But when it comes to, legal processes, corruption in government, or whether it's just legalized, so maybe not technically corruption, honestly, insider trading, it's not called that because they're not in part of the companies, but them, there's whole people out there that make their money off of looking at what politicians are trading based on which committees they're on and seeing what they're doing because it's a matter of public record for the most part. But also the fact that that can even happen, if you want to talk about cleaning up politics, I think that would go a long way, saying that if you're entering public office, particularly in the national legislature, your portfolio is on hold for now. Sorry about that. You made this choice when you ran because, the amount of trades that happen with stuff like that, and also coming to phrase, you show me the man and I'll show you the crime. America has definably, the United States, the most laws on the books of any major country. And one of the upshots of that was thinking about this earlier today, actually, that with all these laws out there, of course, they're not being enforced all the time. How many people have sped without noticing it here? So to say that all laws should be enforced equally at every point in time is just not a reality of our life. What the upshot of it is that if something has come to attention, I mean, how many times have you heard or seen or had in your own life the trope happen practically of, well, you made someone mad and so they're going to find something wrong that you did. The amount of largesse of these laws ultimately results in it being that if you have attention on you or someone doesn't like you, they can probably find something that they may even be doing in their own lives that they're now going to then further try to get you on. So it's serious. If you want to talk about serious government reformation we need, that would be a good one, even if not quite as top of mind in a lot of ways. And yeah, on guns and all the things here, I have a lot of frustrations with it, but whenever it comes down to, so therefore we need to deal with the people that have the least problems coming from it here, and also society, breakdowns of it. There are a lot of concerns, and it's interesting the dichotomy that does happen there, of course, because we have people who bring up concerns about, the implement itself, the scary black weapons and those kind of things, but then also recognize, phrases like toxic masculinity have come up a lot more. So there's a recognition that there are things that are wrong or different, or maybe wrongly different in some cases, but the lack of looking at it comprehensively, and that's where I think it really comes down to when we're talking about immigration, the lack of willingness to pursue a comprehensive solution, the ideological divide when it comes to that. It seems like the lens is either only border security or only immigration reform, when really a combined solution is what is truly necessary. But as much as I would love to see it, I'm not going to hold my breath on it actually happening.
Yeah, I totally agree with you about the insider trading business, and the government has just, like you said, too many laws. They've got too much power to do regulations to begin with, to give them the power to change what businesses are going to succeed and which are going to fail. The government shouldn't even have that power to begin with, in my opinion. And so, but back to the equal application of the law. The reason why people are going to be upset is because if they see Bill Clinton taking those tapes in his sock drawer, if they see Hillary Clinton having her illegal server in the closet that may have been hacked by foreign governments, and she never had any trouble. She wasn't even the president. She didn't even have the authority to declassify things.
Right.
And if they don't see the equal application of the law, and then you start seeing that same thing with regular citizens where kind of like we saw under the Obama years and Lois Lerner, she took the fifth on going after, different companies or organizations because of their politics and just using the IRS or whatever arm of government as their tools to go after the opposing political side, then we're going to be in a really bad place in this country.
Yeah, and as much as any system is only as good as the people who believe in it, concepts such as the rule of law and people actually be willing to do it. We, of course, don't have, a cop in every corner, enforcement universally. So, and as much as, the phrase is that character is what you do when no one is watching, the rule of law is only as good as what people are doing if there isn't immediately someone with a badge in front of them here. And so that concept, once lost, I feel will be an incredibly difficult one to try and bring back.
Yep, you're seeing some videos online about that too. Just people just tearing into these stores.
Oh, yeah.
Chaos.
The flash mobs. I'm dating myself here, but flash mobs used to be a fun thing and not a crime-based thing. So that's me shaking my fist at the kids to get off my grass here, I guess.
All right, Andrew, have a good weekend.
You too as well. Thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate it here. Some more comments coming in here. We got more calls as well here. We got time for one more this segment here. At least I want to make one of the things here. Adam Gabriel Cavalier, if I'm saying that right here, saying he's listened to the show on the radio for months. Today is the first time tuning in on Facebook. Thank you for your perspective on local and national events. Appreciate you chiming in on it, because people taking the time to do so is really what makes this work here. Also noting it's rare for a host to exercise such patience with callers, actually let them talk. It may be my foible, but yeah, I always usually seek to understand and then to be understood along with it. And maybe if I give myself a little bit too much rope, it happens sometimes. But let's get at least one more here. We have Tony on the west side with us on the line right now. Tony, thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, Andrew. I've decided there's so much misinformation and so much error and so much hate and so forth. Error exemplified by Johnny from Central, for example. Everything he said was wrong. So I've decided to go ahead and proclaim myself the prophet for El Paso, a prophet of God, speaking to 1/3 of your audience, because we know that 2/3, represented by 666, is probably not going to make it. But since this is Friday and it's Free Call Friday, I'm not going to get religious or anything. I'm just going to say things that are factual. Remember, just because it sounds religious doesn't mean it's not a fact. So, number one, creation is proof that there's a creator. And I'm going to give these pieces of information out for my 1/3 because, I've been watching some YouTubes, and it's getting to where the left with the transgender and the pronouns and the gender pronouns and the all that stuff, you can't even ask questions about it anymore because you're considered offensive and disrespectful and so forth. So we need to go back to our foundational education so we can defend ourselves. And as much as I hate to say it, it's only by having positions of authority that we're finally going to have some kind of victory or reprise on the coming judgment. In other words, it's the people in authority that decide the true definitions or the practical definitions, because, again, our world is turned upside down. So the first one, of course, is that the creation is evidence of a creator. Number two, that Scripture is evidence that there's a creator because it predicts things that happen hundreds of years before they happen and they come true. And of course, transformed lives is another piece of evidence that can't be denied. There's a lot of transformed lives out there by the power of God. And the Jewish people who were promised to have benefits, or blessings above the whole world, and they represent less than 3% of the population and control 80% or so of the wealth. That's all because of the promise made to Abraham in chapter 12 of Genesis. Now, what does this have to do with you all listening? Is that you need to really get your education and your belief system and your foundation strong, because we're going to get into worse and worse turbulent times. It's going to get worse. This is only the beginning. Like Paul said, it would be like a woman giving birth, like birth pangs. It's going to come in waves until it gets worse and worse, and we're going to be persecuted. They're going to make the Bible illegal, so you better hurry up and memorize the main points of the Bible and things like that. And I ask God in prayer and fasting why all this is happening, why so many things are going against this family structure, against his values, against the Ten Commandments, against prayer, against Christ, and so forth. And the answer he gave me, and you all can pray about this tonight, is that he wants us closer. His own people are not close enough to him for him to come and rescue and help and heal our land. So I put those words out to ears who have ears, and to the other 2/3, you're lost. There's nothing I can do for you until you reach rock bottom. So thank you, Andrew, for this open mic, and I wish you well.
Yeah, you as well. I appreciate the point in the call there. I'll say this, getting to some interesting concepts there, to put it somewhat less metaphysically and more, still philosophically, getting to the first mover principle there, which is an interesting concept. One has been debated for generations, or really hundreds of years when it comes down to it. But I mean, people finding faith in their importance and their meaning in life is important from wherever they can get it. And I have no begrudging of anyone. It's when someone says, in the intractability that can often come with it, firmness of faith is no excuse for closeness of mind, in my experience. Because if you cannot, sure, a wise person can entertain a thought without having to accept it. Someone who says that, the way I think is the only way you can, from whichever kind of race, creed, theology, idea from it, yeah, I find myself disagreeing with them more often than not. So the ability to talk about these things is certainly very important. So I appreciate your pointing the call in the due way that it is intended there. And we'll say that if anyone is worried about what's going to be happening next, I do think things are going to get weirder over time. That's been the one constant that has happened in my life, I do feel like here. And whichever way you find to deal with it, think about it, find those of common faith, ideology, or just conception there, more than welcome to. Absolutely here. We got to take that next break right now. Coming out of the break, tell you what we're working on for you next week, squeezing what we can, and close out the show for you. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments have come in, squeezing what we can here. So stay tuned after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On the 10 Gateway westbound at Airway, an accident blocking the right lane involving a pedestrian, slowing traffic too on the 10 westbound between Americas Avenue and Patriot with 10-minute delays. Slow traffic on the I-10 eastbound between Aircraft and the 54 Patriot with 5-minute delays. A stalled vehicle blocking the exit ramp on Americas Avenue northbound at Zaragoza. Injury accident Viscount eastbound at Sunmount Drive. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
Groucho Marx is an American comedy legend, but he kept to himself as the years went on. We'll bring you the story of Marx's personal historian during the final years of his life. Be sure to listen to this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Almost 3 million people use Navage to breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. I'm Martin Hoke, and I invented Navage, the world's only nose cleaner that helps flush out airborne germs with powered suction. But what do doctors have to say about Navage? Here's Dr. Tonya Farmer, a board-certified ear, nose, and throat specialist.
Most airborne allergens and viruses enter through your nose. When that happens, it can cause congestion and irritation, and that just makes you feel miserable. You can get a cold, you can get flu, sinus infections, or even worse. Flushing your nose with a saline solution is the most effective way to flush all of those dangerous threats out of your nose. So now when patients come in my office, I tell them I highly recommend that you use Navage on a daily basis for overall good health and wellness.
And Navage is all natural and drug-free at Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, and Target. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E. Clean nose, healthy life.
It can happen easily. A few drinks become a few too many. It's time to go, and you think of calling for a ride home. Nah, what's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
Today on Hey Culligan, soft water, cleaner environment. What do you say, Greg?
Hey Culligan, are you saying if I have a Culligan high-efficiency water softener, I'm also helping the environment?
It sounds like you're saying it, Greg, and yes, you are, because with the Culligan high-efficiency water softener, you'll use less detergent, soap, and harsh chemicals, and that's good for the planet.
Now you're saying it.
You bet I am, Greg. Soft water and a cleaner environment is already on the way. Let us help you out with a free in-home water test from a local Culligan water expert at Culligan.com.
Do you think it's okay to drive stoned? The truth is your reaction times slow way down when you're high. You not only put yourself in danger, but everyone around you. Stop kidding yourself. If you've been using marijuana in any form, do not get behind the wheel. If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high, get a DUI. Paid for by NHTSA.
M1EP.com. Superior multifamily property management services citywide.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. We'll keep doing this again as we do every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. A couple of things we're working on for you. Again, more on some of those petitions and otherwise ballot initiatives and other things we're going to be voting on. We got some deadlines coming up in the midst of the show on Monday, so we'll keep our eyes on those and just a whole lot more talk about the things affecting us here in El Paso. Don't forget to turn in and tune in to the El Paso History Radio Show, airing tomorrow 10 to noon here on News Radio 690 KTSM, talking about the Women's Club of El Paso. Got to get the inflection right there, as they are talking about their very long history, upcoming events, and how the preservation is ongoing there. So I know we had some callers on the line there. Unfortunately, we are already at time for the show here, just getting back onto it. So I want to thank everyone who did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. Seriously, these conversations, as much as we can squeeze in each and every day of the week, are very important. We aim to continue doing so. So if you weren't able to get on, don't forget you can leave us messages after the show through the Talkback feature on the iHeartRadio app. But in the meantime, I want to implore everyone, particularly with that weather coming, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening all. We'll see you tomorrow or next week. Turn to the El Paso History Radio Show.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On the 10 Gateway westbound at Airway, an accident blocking the right lane involving a pedestrian, slowing traffic too on the 10 westbound between America's Avenue and Patriot with 10-minute delays. Slow traffic on the I-10 eastbound between Arcraft and the 54 Patriot with 5-minute delays. A stalled vehicle blocking the exit ramp on America's Avenue northbound at Zaragoza. Injury accident Viscount eastbound at Sunmount Drive. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working. Who, me? Text and whatever, just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Being aware of the world around you is important.
When it comes to news, yes, I am.
So we're feeding your need to know 24/7 at the top and bottom of the hour.
I like to know what's going on in my locality, abroad.
Events of the world.
Fairly so. Yeah, I'm pretty connected.
Or down the street.
For the most part, I know what's going on.
You know, I need to be aware and what to look out for, and I'm real cautious, so yeah.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. A federal judge in Georgia is denying Senator Lindsey Graham's bid to escape a subpoena requiring testimony regarding alleged election interference. Lawyers for the South Carolina Republican asked for a temporary block on an order issued last week that denied his attempt to stop the subpoena. Graham is now scheduled to testify on Tuesday regarding whether former President Trump and others illegally influenced the 2020 election in Georgia. A member of ISIS will spend the rest of his life in prison for killing Americans. The ISIS Beatle was given the sentence for the deaths of 4 Americans, including James Foley and Kayla Mueller.
These brave Americans